Cari amici sportivi, yes, welcome to the local soccer show, guys. I'm Stevie P. Yes, I've gone into social media morning after the Euro Derby loss, but nothing gets me jacked up, no pun intended, for the local soccer show every Thursday night. And tonight, guys, is a first for us. It's something that I'm very excited about. There's two great people, someone who has helped me tremendously in progressing in my coaching career. And, it's a father son duo. It's really exciting. And, people like this come on to the local soccer show to share their stories. And this is a fantastic story that we want to bring to you all. And we hope to have many, many more moving forward. But I can't start the show without paying a little bills and shouting out the boys and girls at Evangelista Sport who are head over heels in terms of work to get all these soccer clubs ready for their outdoor season. Guys, please check them out. 6821 Boulevard Saint Laurent. It's the mecca of soccer gear. There's jerseys, there's hoodies, zip ups, you name it, from every club: EPL, Spanish, Serie A, so on and so forth. National team gear, you can get it. Vintage gear, get your cleats, get your shin pads, get your grip socks. That's apparently a new thing now. Grip socks. I'm aging myself, but Evangelista Sport, check them out, guys. And if you can't make it and you don't live in Montreal, check them out online, evangelistasports.com, and they pretty much ship everywhere. And enjoy. So before we bring on our fantastic guests, Presidente, let's start it, buddy. Guys, welcome to the local soccer show. The Marziliano family is on with us tonight. Jack and Anthony Marziliano. Guys, Jack, welcome back to the show. Anthony,
Thanks, Steve.
welcome to the show. First cap for you. Guys, how you doing tonight?
We're doing good. We're doing good.
Thanks for having us, Steve.
You know it's a pleasure, Jack. You know it's a pleasure. Jack and Anthony. We'll start with Jack because he's the older one, Anthony. And, the show is a lot about you, less about your dad. So to not make him feel too jealous, we're going to start with him. Jack, for people that have been living under a rock and didn't watch you on the first time that you came on the local soccer show, tell them a little bit about yourself, Jack.
I'm the technical director at the region of Barassa. And I also wear another hat because I love coaching. I'm also a coach on a couple of teams for Soccer Saint Laurent. And I do soccer full-time every day, 7 days a week.
I know you do, Jack, because ever since you were on the show the first time, you've been fielding questions from me and Marcello. So we know that you really do soccer full-time, and great stuff for the development programs at Ville Saint Laurent and Soccer Barassa. Congratulations, fantastic stuff. And again, not because you're on the show, I've told you this multiple times. You're a wealth of knowledge. You've helped me so much in progressing in my C license. I thank you so much. I owe you another lunch for sure. So,
it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, Steve.
Anthony,
yes,
we would be dumb not to introduce you in the show. So, Anthony, we're not going to age you. You're going to age yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Anthony, and your soccer career up until now. Very young soccer career.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I've been playing pretty much all my life. I started out about the age of 4. I was playing with CS Monte. I did house league there, so for about 4 years, did house league there. Then at U8, I joined development soccer, which is competitive. And from there, I was a goalkeeper. That's when I started in nets. And I was from 8 years old playing competitive. That's the year that I joined Clean Sheet also. So I've always been with them. Goalkeepers, they always need a bit more help, a bit more concentration, So I was with Clean Sheet. And I kept on going with Monte. Then when I hit about the secondary one, the ages of high school, I joined the Spotted Sid of Laval. And then, yeah, I've been with the Spotted Sid since secondary 4. And now I'm at AS Laval playing U17 AAA. So, yeah.
Fantastic, Anthony. And we're gonna hit the big news after. And I like that you just got it out of the way. Reno puts a lot of pressure on us, guys. You're gonna have Anthony on talk about clean sheet. We wore the hat. I don't have any gear, Anthony, because I'm not a keeper, so you didn't provide me with anything. But I'm happy you did. So
Yeah.
this is for Reno, guys. Check out clean sheet. That's specialized training for goalkeepers. Anthony is a byproduct of the fantastic work that Reno and his whole team does. It is a show, and it's a show in a good way.
Yeah.
It's fantastic to watch. It's super organized. It's super intense, high intensity, unlike the CDCs that some of us run. That's for another time. Uh, Anthony, if we can go back, I
Yeah.
like for the guests to talk about
Mhm.
how you started,
Yeah.
and now this is special because I have father and son. So I'm gonna ask you first.
Yeah.
If you can go back and remember your grassroots and what you were doing in terms of training, what are things that you liked about it, and what are things that you didn't like about it?
What I liked about it was my pathway from a young age. I liked the stages I went through, and honestly, I feel like if I wouldn't have took all those steps and all those trainings at a young age, I wouldn't be at the level I am today. Something that I didn't like as much is as a goalkeeper, sometimes there's not as much concentration on them, right? As I said at the beginning, if I wasn't with clean sheet, it would have been very hard for me to get training. So I feel like there should just be more concentration on keepers and getting them training.
And Jack, a question for the dad. You're watching all this. Now we'll take away the technical director of Burasa. Let's talk Jack, the dad. You see this, and you see first of all, your son comes to you and he says, Daddy, I want to play in nets. For you, someone who has played the game, you already know that that's already nerve wracking for him. How about on you, Jack?
Oh, for a parent, I think that's the toughest position to be on the sidelines for, because the reality is for a goalkeeper, when you lose, fingers are pointed at you, and when you win, they're never pointed at you most of the time, unless it's a penalty shootout. But it is nerve wracking, but it's also it's a special position. It's a breed completely different than the rest of the team. They need to have certain skills, and you can only develop them as they go along, right? So it's fun to watch. It's been fun to watch a progression, right? He's at the beginning stages of his let's say elite development right now, but it's nice to watch from the sidelines.
And I'm gonna ask you because I know your history, and we've become friends because of not only the local soccer show, but the common friends that we have. Now, you were not always this soccer guy and heavily involved in soccer, but you looking at Anthony's training, what are some things that you liked, and now fast forward to today, and you say, "Man, maybe that wasn't the case back then."
Listen, Anthony's been very fortunate. He did go through all the steps, right? He learned to walk before he ran, basically. At a young age with CS Monteuil at the time, they were thinking ahead. They had a small goalkeeper program, and with Coach Remy, who was his first goalkeeper coach, I think he instilled a bit of that passion of a goalkeeper inside of Anthony. Uh, And I think in the club, it was good because he was getting, especially for grassroots, right? The early stages for goalkeepers. I think it was interesting to see that, there was a program, and on Sunday mornings, he would show up on the field and, train with the goalkeepers that were there. It was divided in ages. And it was very good. And he built a passion through that. And then afterwards, obviously, when he entered the development program, which was at U8, a little bit different than what we're living today through the CDCs, but we had a development program at U8. When he entered that, then he was competing as a goalie. So we said, okay, let's try and find some more specific training for goalkeepers. And we ended up meeting Reno and then followed through with Reno. You know what? Honestly, been very fortunate because there's not much I didn't dislike along the pathway. I've guided him, but for me, what was important is that he has fun with it. When you're having fun with something, um, you're always going to put everything you have on it. So it's been good up to now. Let me say it's ups and downs. Don't get me wrong, and that's sports, right? There's more downs than ups, but the ups are so exhilarating sometimes that they make up for all the downs.
Yeah. And Anthony, you said that you always played keeper. Was there ever a time or a doubt where you said, you know what, I don't, maybe keeper's not for me. Maybe I want to try something else?
It's always been a hard position, right? Like my dad said, it's always you're the last man back, right? You make a mistake, it's your fault, you know. But those first development years, when from 4 to 8 years old, I was a bit everywhere on the field, like all kids are. But when I hit 8 years old, I always stuck with it, and like it's like I knew I had to be in that position. Yeah, so I never really had doubts.
And how much, I want to talk, we have Reno who does a fantastic job with clean sheet. I've assisted to the sessions that he does, and I'm just curious. Like I know his sessions are focused on technique and and stamina and building the keeper to be a very confident person. But how much work do you do on your own? And this is a double edged question. You Jack as a dad, and you Anthony as the actual keeper.
Mhm.
Psychologically, like you said, you're the last person there. Is there, do the teams help you on the psyche side of it, saying we see now in sports a lot of teams are going to these sports psychologists and stuff like that. How do you deal with that stuff at a very very young age, and how, Jack, do you try to prepare him for that?
Do you want me to jump in?
Yeah.
So I'll give you my take on that. So as goalkeepers, I think they're built different mentally, and it's a position that within your trainings you need to instill certain mental aspects, and I think that's what Reno did very efficiently with him and with all his keepers, is to really go in and as you're working your technique, you're also working the mental, right? And sometimes you need to break down a player in order for him to get mentally strong. And I think those are the aspects that are important. um, I think as parents, his mom and I have given him all the tools he needed along the way. And as he grew more into, the elite levels, well, obviously he's a very responsible young man, and he understands that nutrition and sleep are very important. And, he does all his extra training on his own, meaning physical training. So, all those aspects give you always that little edge, because I believe that, you know, and everybody says it, the talent gets you on the field, but hard work keeps you on the field. And it's important to, especially when you're at the elite level, those 3 practices a week with your club at an elite level may not be enough. Maybe they might be, but they might not be. And that's the moment that you got to be responsible enough. And if it's something you enjoy, say, okay, you know what, tonight I'm going to go run 2K, 5K. I'm going to do some jump rope. I'm going to do any type of work. So I think those are the parts that make a difference going forward at a higher level. I mean, like you said, he's at the beginning stages of where he is, but I think it's important for people to understand that, the steps you need to take in order to get to that next level.
Anthony,
And
yeah, go ahead,
yeah,
Anthony. I
just
would like
coming
to.
back to the psychological part of, I felt a very important role was those first few years with Reno, because it was very hard on you at a young age, right? Like almost to the point where you're like, whoa, like you're a bit scared. But I feel like that instilled something in my head that that's what a goalkeeper is, right? You have to be different from everyone else. You're the only one on the field that's like that. So I feel from a young age, since they were always hard on me, it showed like a lone wolf a bit on the field. Psychologically, I'm stronger than the others. So that's what I felt was very important that Reno instills in his keepers.
So that's a perfect segue, and Jack, you're gonna hate me for this, and I know if you don't want to answer it, don't answer it there. But I'll talk with Anthony then. So I'm a big believer in that too. I believe that some tough love sometimes helps you guys at a very young age, right? I grew up that way. I grew up with that type of tough love, and I think it formed me into the man that I am today, right? So. We're going away from that though, and we see it with the CDCs, we see it with life in general. Do you think, Jack, that now with the lifespan of CDC, we need to rethink how we're dealing with these kids? Because I think we're snowflaking it a bit too much, and Anthony's very lucky in a program where he got that tough love, and he's proof that it works. I'm pretty sure that there's proof that some people were broken after that. But what do you guys think about this tough love? Are we being too soft on these kids nowadays?
You know what, Steve? I think that it doesn't come down to the tough love, but I think it's important that when they run sessions, especially at the CDC level, that they incorporate, different segments. Meaning, you want to touch a bit of physical, you want to touch a bit of mental, social, you want to touch a bit of technical and a bit of tactical, but in the same session, in the same drill. So, develop exercises and drills that touch those four aspects, right? And that way you can get the player from point A to point B. We grew up with that tough love, right? And does it mean that kids today aren't as tough mentally? Uh, I don't think so. I think there's kids that are tough mentally, and then there's kids that are not. It's fine, but I think when it comes to sports, those four aspects need to be incorporated in drills, and that's how you can get them to be mentally strong through it, right? Um, I've never been a screamer on the field. I'm not that type of person. I like to have conversation with the kids, and I like to have them thinking more than I'm thinking for them. So that starts working, up here, and it gets them stronger. And as long as they understand that you need to make mistakes in order to learn, you can move forward with that. It's when they're scared of making mistakes, it's tougher to coach.
Yeah,
So you got to
and
create
again,
an
don't
environment.
yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not going along the lines of screaming. I'm going more along the lines of accountability and responsibility,
A
right?
hundred
So
percent, a
So,
hundred percent.
Anthony, I'd love to pick your brain because, like you said, you're in a position where if you make a mistake, everybody will remember that mistake forever.
Yeah.
And the good things that you do don't necessarily overshadow that mistake all the time. So, seeing, I know you might not get to see it a lot, but and again, do you think we're being a little bit too soft on everybody?
Um, I feel like it's going with the environment of today. We can't really go back to the times that you guys were in, right? The tough love, as my father said. I feel like it's kind of in a situation that we have to develop. Like even if I compare to when I joined Clean Sheet to now, they're not as hard as the younger side of the goalkeepers as they were with me. But for me it helped, but I feel like it's developed with the time that we're in that you can't really do that with all the goalkeepers now or just any player in general.
Very nice, Anthony. Your father will be very proud of that. Very, very nice answer. Let's talk back to you, Anthony. So you're playing 1 year higher. So that's a hot button topic where you're classified 1 year higher than you're supposed to be playing.
Yes.
Tell us about that. The first time that happened to you. And Jack, how did you feel about that when they approached you at that? Because I would assume they spoke to you as well about that.
Yeah, so the first time, obviously, you have to. For most of my life, I was with the same team, very comfortable. Now I'm put in a more out of my comfort zone situation. So it took a few weeks, maybe even months, to get in, to prove myself to them. But now I feel like I've I've got my spot on the team, and it's a completely different environment. The level's higher, the physicality's higher, and the league's at a different level than what I was playing before.
And Jack, you, how did that conversation go when they approached you to have Anthony play one level higher?
For me, I've always trusted the club and where they wanted to bring players, right? So if they felt that he was ready to make that step, for me, I was okay with it. I'm happy that he gets to get challenged like that. Not everybody gets those opportunities. He was fortunate enough to get it, and good for him because it's going to be a learning experience for him. The club's done a fantastic job, on that aspect. His coaches, from his age to the overage that he's playing now, they've all done a great job, and I think they felt comfortable with it, so I felt comfortable with it.
I want to know the first time you stepped into that locker room. Now I know you're 16 now, Anthony.
Yeah.
So you're stepping in with 17-year-olds. Was there a difference in the maturity level between you and the other guys that you were around?
Um, Not necessarily. I feel like the maturity level changes at about 15. I feel like 16, 17, it's kind of similar. But one thing I did notice is you're not respected right away, right? You're a younger kid coming in, you have to earn it, right? You have to earn the right to play, and you have to earn the respect from the other players. So it did take a while to fit in with the team, but it takes time, right? You have to, as I said, you have to prove yourself on the field, and you have to just prove yourself, earn the respect of your other teammates, and it's gonna go well.
Amazing. And now this hard work comes to, again, we're flying by. We're 25 minutes, and I'm pretty sure we can go to 2 hours and 25 minutes. But I want to give you the opportunity, right? So there's a big and there's I was lucky enough to get that article from your dad, and for people who did not know, there's a big thing, right? Uh, back in my day, there was not too many avenues. Right now, for you, and I'm really happy. There's a lot of avenues that you could take. For you, Anthony, with hard work, dedication, and and doing what you do well is stopping the ball. You're taking this pathway to the United States. So if you could tell people about this experience, where you're going, so I don't flambe the name of the
Yeah.
school and they never want to come on my show, and then what's next for Anthony.
Well, yeah, basically, I was offered by a prep school in Connecticut called Loomis Chafee. I had been identified because of FMS Pro, Find Me Showcases, and Noah Eisenberg. So Noah Eisenberg basically got me out there to most of the prep schools in the U.S., and I had a few different schools coming out, but the one I had went to was it's called Loomis Chafee, and yeah, it was a great academic and soccer opportunity for me, and it was something I felt that was the next step in my career that I had to take.
And Jack, when you get the news, what's your reaction? Proud father aside, what's your reaction?
Well, yeah, obviously proud father, and like Anthony was saying, with Find Me showcases, he ended up getting exposed to places that he would probably not get exposed. So through that, we were able, with Noah, who really accompanied him throughout the whole process. And it was important that for me that it had to come from him. He was ready to make that step for me and his mom. It was important that he was ready to make that step, because if the pro is where you want to reach, I think this was the first small step towards there, because you're away from home, you're away from your family, you're away from your friends, your girlfriends, your school friends, your whole in comfort zone. You're away from it. Now you're alone. This was in Connecticut, so it felt comfortable because 5.5 hour drive. You're there. If something goes wrong, but I thought that this was a good step. And when we got the acceptance, well, I think we were all thrilled and happy that this was his next step.
before we go on, Anthony, I want to just pick your brain because the
Yeah.
showcase either did not exist in my time or I was not invited. So, talk to us about your experience with the showcase because your dad was really, really nice to me and Gianfranco, my little one, to have me stay for one of these showcases that happened at Marie Victorin, and I was blown away. I was a little kid. Your dad was like you were a little kid in a candy store. For me, it was like I'm a huge fan of March Madness and college basketball and football, and I'm a sports junkie. So to see the different logos that I recognize was something, right? And I turned to your dad and I was like, "Well, this is it's not a local showcase. It's
Yeah.
it's 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 re, it's extended more than that.
Mhm.
I'd
Yeah.
like you to share your experience of going to this showcase, the type of pressure that you experienced, and what are some of your recommendations for anybody else going through a showcase?
Well, yeah, for sure. One of my favorite parts about it is you just see so many different players, different cultures, different teams going from everywhere. And yeah, I feel like the pressure is there, but just focus on yourself, right? You're going there to prove yourself to a lot of scouts. There's a lot of just go out there, perform, right? Have fun. But yeah, it could be a bit nerve wracking. When you get there, you see all those coaches. You meet all of them, right? Then you hop on the field and you play, right? And you're getting scouted here, getting scouted there. Some will pull you to the side, talk to you. But what I did, where I just performed, and Noah saw my talent, and he saw that he could bring me maybe to another level with the sport, and that's what got me where I am today, right? He exposed me to many prep schools, and eventually to the school that I will be going to later in September. So yeah, just show your qualities as a player, and the opportunities will come.
Yeah. And Jack, thanks to your dad, Jack, we have Noah, and we're gonna
Mhm.
try to. We're forcing him to come on the show. But as a preview, don't give us too much because we need to have Noah on the show. But Jack,
Yeah.
as someone who's heavily involved in the showcase, can you tell people as a parent what are your feelings when you're watching your kid at the showcase or you send them off to the showcases?
Well, to be honest, Steve, the first one he did was at Molson Percival Stadium, which was a bit like, wow, like it's a big stadium. They're hopping on the field, they're running sessions with them, they have some games going on. It's a nice feeling because you're looking around, right? But for me, what's important is that we keep on here in Quebec creating pathways. We can't just say that that we only have one pathway in Quebec. We're developing great athletes, great players. We have great talent in this province. Let's expose them. There's nothing wrong by exposing them. We don't only have to keep them here. Let's expose them. They're going to go out there, grab more experience, and come back and give that experience over to the next generation. So the showcases for me, they're important, but important done properly. You know, we're not there to sell a dream that's not a reality. We're there just to open pathways, and if Noah does come on eventually, he'll talk about FMS Pro, but Noah's been through the process as a player. He's been in the US. He played pro. He understands what they're going through as athletes, young athletes, and he accompanies them very, very well, and he prepares them, and he stays in contact with them. And here at Barassa, we've managed, with FMS Pro to get interests on, 7, 8 players already. So, and one that's already leaving, next September to Vermont. So, the accompanying that he does with the parents and the player is fantastic, and I think that relieves a lot of the stressful part.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Okay,
just to
we're
add
gonna
to that,
yeah, but we gotta stop Jack because he's taking Noah's all the shine from Noah. So go, Anthony. I'm joking.
yeah, no, I feel it's a crucial part that Noah went through the program, and I feel that's what makes it a good showcase, right? Something that for players that they should go to because he knows the pathway and he's been through the failures, the ups, the downs, so he knows how to guide a player to the right places, and that's what I feel made the difference.
And one last question about this. So this prep school approaches you. Obviously, they need to talk to you with the presence of your dad. How many questions in terms of the, because physical ability is one thing, but we're seeing nowadays that the psychological portion of it is a big factor in them because they're investing in you, right? They're investing
Yeah.
X number of dollars to take you from your home and bring you to their school and for you to perform for their school. They want to know what they're getting. On the psychological side, how did they go through that portion of it?
Well,
The interviews.
yeah, they did an interview with me. So they basically asked me questions about school, sports, why I would be coming to the school, and yeah, that's pretty much all they did on my side for the psychological part. Yeah,
No, cool, and it's a good segue. So
yeah,
we went the U.S. route. You're going to the prep school again. This is obvious. There's other pathways. Did you ever think there was another pathway that you could explore? And Jack, how did you guide him into maybe that might not be the right way, this might be the right way?
well, I had a few other pathways. The main one was just stay in Quebec, obviously follow the pathway, maybe make it to semi-pro, from there the CPL, further and further, or I could have gone to Europe. That was also a second option, go to Europe, play in Europe. But I felt I wasn't at the age right now to go by myself to Europe. And I feel the States, as my father said, was a small step to see if everything would work out for me. And I feel like this is a step that could then take me more and more and advance in the sport.
So what's next for Anthony after let's go with this prep school. You're ready, you're playing. What's your next goal? What's after? How many years are you at the school? What's the next step?
Well, I'll be at the school for 3 years. And then, so I'd have to redo my grade 10 that I'm doing here. And then I'd have to go to grade 12. And then from there would probably be to try to get with the NCAA, and then try to go further and further, maybe make it to MLS, and then from there get as far as we can.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah,
And Anthony, obviously, this is a double-edged question for your dad as well. How focused are they on your academics? We've all heard the stories.
yeah,
The very they put a lot of pressure on you. Need to keep your grades up. So are they the is school an important factor in this journey that you're taking to Connecticut?
extremely important. If I wouldn't have had the marks that I have, there was probably zero to none chance that I would be at the school. Yeah, they take it very seriously.
Fantastic,
Yeah.
amazing, Anthony.
Mhm.
And yourself, Jack, I can imagine as a parent, another proud dad moment. Your son academically is also capable of going to the school. So that's something that we can't lose track. And especially, uh, I'd love to hear your side of that. How important that was for him, and to trust Anthony to take that next step.
Well, with his mom and I, academics have been always a priority, and it has to stay a priority, even for any other kid that's doing sports, because you never know what happens in, that top of the pyramid is so small and so difficult to reach, and if you don't reach it, you need that something to fall back on. And so us academics was always a priority. And when those pathways opened up, he says he has an opportunity to get a phenomenal education in a great institution that probably we would have never, even thought of. And now he has that opportunity. So for his mom and I, it was important that, he actually understands, what he's about to live. And, fortunately enough, he manages well sports and academics, and he's able to balance both, but balance both at a good level, right? It's important to do well in school, and I'll never stop saying it, even to our Sport Sud students that we have. It's important. That shows people that you're able to balance a lot of stuff, and you're organized and responsible. And for coaches in sports, when you see an athlete that has those capabilities, you say, you know what, okay, he could be a candidate for us. So it's important.
You're a good man. It's fantastic advice. But now I have to ask you this question. It's a bit cliche. You know, Jack, you've gone through this process with your son Anthony. If you would have to give advice to someone who's going to listen to this podcast tomorrow, who has a son or daughter going through the same steps or similar steps to what Anthony is going through, what advice would you give them?
Don't push them. Let it come naturally. For his mom and I, it's always been, let it come naturally. Uh, when I saw the interest, that's when I said, you know what, here are all the tools you need. Let's see where it brings you. Um, and I think once you have a genuine interest to go at a higher level, uh, that's the moment you say, you know what, let's have them do some extra training or specific trainings. And if you do embark in that, and I tell people all the time, it's not once a month that's going to change the way you do things. It's got to be consistent, once a week, twice a week. You got to invest that time in order for that progression to happen. And it has to be consistent. You can't do it for a month and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to become a great goalkeeper in a month. It's over years that you got to do it, and you got to do it consistently. And you know what? I tip my hat off to him and his mom too, is that he's consistent in everything he does, and he does it on a daily basis. And yes, he's a great goalkeeper in our eyes, but I think it's the work that he puts in that keeps on making him consistent in what he does. And I think training consistently makes your game become very consistent.
Anthony, this
Yes.
is another hot topic question for yourself.
Mhm.
If again, very young, and again, a tremendous future ahead of you, but if you can tell your younger self some advice, what would you give yourself as advice?
Honestly, I've been asked that question a few times, and
Okay, Anthony, don't get mad. Okay, this is
yeah.
my show. I can ask it. Okay, don't
Mhm.
get mad.
And I wouldn't really change anything about the pathway that I took, because I feel like, as my father said, I was very fortunate, and if I wouldn't have taken those steps, I don't think I would have been where I am today. Now, if one thing I would have told my younger self maybe was just work harder, right? Because every hour you're on that field, you keep on working, you're gonna be above others, right? And if you keep on following the pathway, you're eventually gonna get there if you put in the work.
Jack, swing it back over to you, because this is something that interests me a lot. You've never coached Anthony.
Very, very young in micro soccer.
Do you think that it's a problem to be a parent coach, especially, and if yes, what age would you recommend or suggest that parent coach relationship just either doesn't work anymore or it needs to change?
It's not that so I know a lot of coaches that are parents that are, licensed and highly capable of running sessions and coaching teams. I just find it puts the child in an awkward situation because you could be one of two parents and there's no in between. You're either extremely hard and using your child as an example all the time, or you're very nonchalant, right? And I think, especially in development years, it's important that the kid is able to go through the process without that extra pressure of having their father or mother behind the bench. If is there an age? Look, I know coaches that are still coaching elite levels, their kids, and they're doing a phenomenal job. It's working for them. So maybe they found, the right formula. I personally didn't want to expose my son to the politics of coaching my son. saying, "Oh, look, he's on the team because you're the coach, or he's starting because you're the coach." And a lot of people have told me, "Well, it doesn't really matter. Your son's a goalkeeper, so it's not like a player." But I never wanted to expose him to the politics, and neither did his mom. And we wanted him to learn, I need to work to achieve what I want to achieve, and it's got to be on my merit. And like I said earlier, his mom and I have always given him, the tools that he needed. Here are the tools. We'll guide you, but you got to put in the effort and the work. So that's why I'm a little uncomfortable with parent coaching. Obviously, at a younger age, I think by 14, 15, they shouldn't be behind the bench with their own kid. If they are, everybody has their opinion on that, and I respect that. But that's my opinion on things, and I'm a believer of that. Now, there's exceptions to the rule. It's only normal. I have friends, that have played high-level soccer that are today coaching, and they have their kids on the team, and they do a phenomenal job, better than anybody else I know. So, can I judge that? No, I can't.
And Anthony, how do you ever wish you were on a team where your dad was the coach, or you didn't want to be part of that experiment?
No, I agree with everything you said, and I disagree with parent coaching. I was never with it, and no, I wouldn't want to be. He's a phenomenal coach. Honestly, if I had someone with the philosophy that he had, I would love it. But to be coached by my father is just something I wouldn't want to indulge myself
We
in.
like to play against each other.
Yeah.
That those are probably some interesting keeper sessions. Anthony, you got to try to win some nights out, and win some money off your dad there.
Yeah,
That's something that maybe we'll do a local soccer show penalty shootout and see if you can stop my shots.
yeah.
Guys, we're flying by 45 minutes in, for Jack and Anthony. We see what, again, some people and some clubs have the privilege and the forward thinking, like you said, to hire someone to specialize in goalkeeper training. Uh, what's your assessment, Jack, on goalkeeper training that's happening at club level? Why are guys like Reno and Clean Sheet in such high demand? And what is it about that at club level they can't do it on their own? They need someone like Reno.
I think that Reno has built, to begin with, a phenomenal team, and it's a big team of coaches, right? He's able to disperse coaches a bit everywhere and help out the clubs, and he has a philosophy and a program that's adaptable to every club. I think clubs are starting to understand the need of a goalkeeper trainer within their club, but with a certain structure, program, how to get from point A to point B, basically. I think clubs are starting to have more of an open mind. There's been clubs that were forward thinking, like you said, that decided to say, you know what, yes, let's hire him. Um, there's also other phenomenal coaches across the province, but it's one coach, right? Reno has the capability of having 20, 30 coaches behind him and say, okay, you go over there, you go over there, you go there. So I think he's created that demand for himself for that type of program, and it helps clubs because, to be honest, the club doesn't have to think of, okay, I need a goalkeeper coach, I got to hire somebody. Oh, today he can't come, who's going to replace him? I'm going to put just a player coach or a bench coach to go run the session just for today. So it makes it a bit more difficult, and he offers that service, right? So I think it's very helpful for regions and for clubs to work with him. Now, he's not, like I said, he's not the only one, but he has a great team behind him, and it makes it easier for him to run the program. And I mean, he's built a program now, I think over the 10 years plus that he's built a program. So, and it's a constant and never ending improvement, his program. So it keeps on, developing itself, and it gets better and better. And he offers after his own personal services, and they get better and better. And I mean, he's got a huge amount of goalkeepers now, and the clubs are using him. And I think, even regions are using him as well. So it helps. It's on my end. it helps a lot to be able to lean on somebody that like him and his team. So I don't have to say, oh, you know what, I need to find a goalkeeper coach today.
Yeah. And we're talking about goalkeeper, but we know that the market and the business of specialized training, especially in soccer, is a booming business, right? Uh, but let's put aside the physical aspect of it, and and someone like yourself and Anthony, you've gone through this process too. We touched on the psychological. Should
Mhm.
clubs and regions start looking at sports psychologists for the club, sports psychologists for the region, so that they can talk about this type of, not only the process of success, but there's also a process of failure, right? Not everybody is going to make it to the prep school. Not everybody is going to take that prep school to NCAA, and so on and so forth. There will be some roadblocks. Not everybody. Should clubs and regions start looking at these types of specialists to incorporate in their clubs?
Well, I feel as a player, it's very important. It's something that the psychological side is a way bigger part of the game than the physical side would be. So I feel, as you said, hiring someone that could help the players psychologically is something I feel clubs could incorporate. Yes.
And I think some clubs are even
Yeah, for
doing
sure.
it today. The way I see it is, if you want, you can run a few seminars during the year, and then with your elite teams, that's when you say, you know what, your elite 15, 16, 17-year-old teams, those are the ones where you say, you know what, maybe once a month we bring in the sports psychologist and have conversations with them and see, how to manage stress and how to manage situations and how to get yourself mentally ready for a game, or how to get yourself mentally ready if there's a failure after a game. So it's all those aspects. But I think at the elite level, it should be something that regions and clubs should be doing. I think some clubs in some regions are starting to do it, which is important. And it's just to be consistent in what we do all the time. The more we're consistent, the more the kids will absorb and be able to take away from.
Amazing, guys. I wanna just thank you, because this is amazing stuff. It's the first time we've ever done it. It's something that, Jack, I really wanted to do for a long time, and I'm happy that I'm able to share this moment with you and Anthony, because I know how proud you are of him. Anthony, you probably don't hear it, but I hear it when I talk to your dad, and and how grateful Anthony is to have a great dad and mom. And support system for that. So I want to thank you guys for bringing, for letting me. I'm not gonna say interview you, because for us at the local soccer show, it's a chat with friends, and
That's
it's
it.
always gonna be like that. But I want to use you, Jack, as let's say like a co-host right now. If there something that I missed along this pathway, because you're the one who went through it, something that a topic that I might have not addressed, that we can share.
I don't think so. I think I think we touched everything, and what's important is for everybody to understand that you got to learn to walk before you run, right? And we have steps here in Quebec in our structure that are set up, and they're important steps to take. If I take him, and it's all experiences, good or bad, they're all experiences, and you notch them up, you put them in your little backpack, and you keep them, and when you need that experience again, you open the bag and you pull them out. But like if we look at the pathways for players, we go from CDC to, after we go from CDC to the elite groups, LDP, PLSGQ. Okay, U13, U14, they're evolving in LDP, so they're starting to learn how to compete, a little bit outside of their areas. Then at U15, you have PLSGQ and LDP, where you're competing, across the province. At U14, you can play for your region if you've been identified and you make it on the roster, where you play, the Jeux du Québec or the Tournoi des sélections régionales. From there, that's where you get, identified, to get invited to the provincial team camps. He was lucky enough to go through that. He did the regional team. He got to the provincial team camps. He made the Quebec team. He got to experience the Quebec Ontario series. So it's all these little steps. And if you don't get to those steps, it's fine. it's fine. You just got to keep working and find other pathways. And that's why for me, it's very important that I open up pathways for players post-secondary, always going, in line with academics. But those are the little steps. And then obviously you have the national team program and the national team where you U15, U17, and so on. So those are the steps that a player has here, and I think they're important steps to take. One thing that we lived together is that, and I realize it still today, unless you're not happy with the service you're offered, unless you have a situation where you're uncomfortable or a toxic situation for a player, it's important for the player to stay in his local community club from the ages of 4 to at least 13, 14. Okay. Because there you build bonds, you build confidence, you build friendships. And from there, that confidence is able to bring you to that next step, which would be, let's say, PLSGQ, LDP, and for those who don't know it, those are provincial leagues, right? But it's important. You don't need to move around the kid from one club to another from, at the age of 6, 7, 8, unless, like I said, you're not getting the service. It's a toxic environment, which is not healthy for the kids. But it's important, don't move them around. Let them build friendships, and with that passion that they're going to have for the game, they're just going to keep on playing and playing and playing.
Amazing, Jack and Anthony. Again, I thank you so much. But before I let you go, Jack, you know that you've gone through this before. So now we're going to hit Anthony with some quick fire questions.
Okay.
All right, Anthony, they're fast questions. You answer. You have no choice but to answer. Your dad knows the drill. And it's very, very fun. Okay, so your favorite Serie A team?
Inter Milan.
I said it on purpose because you beat us in the Euro Derby. You're welcome, Jack. The team that you dislike the most?
Juventus.
You've got some more points with that one. A role model, a coach that has helped you along this journey, that you would like to shout out. I know there's many, but someone who's really pushed you over that edge.
Honestly, my father. Couldn't pick anyone else.
That's a nice moment. We'll send you the video clip, Jack, where you can pass over the Kleenex box. If I have to tell you, Anthony, Serie A doesn't exist. We're not of Italian descent, and you would have to follow another team. Would there be another team that you're interested in their play?
Probably Manchester United. I like them as a club. Yeah.
A keeper that you've identified throughout your career that you model your game after. Not, I don't like to say copy, or because you have to be Anthony Marziliano, but someone that you admire his technique, you admire his style.
Yeah, since a young age, it has to be Gianluigi Buffon.
Buffon. For someone who hates Juventus, we always go back to Gianluigi Buffon because of the blue jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony.
Yes.
Pizza or pasta?
Pasta, all the way.
Okay, Anthony. Tough practice with Reno. He brings you through the driller, and you go home. And Jack and Mom, they have a nice setup for you, and you're going to eat pasta. Penne lisce or penne rigate?
Penne rigate.
Yes, sir. The Marzilianos win, ladies and gentlemen. Anthony, we will see each other again. Jack, we will surely see each other again. You owe me a lunch. This is live. The internet's forever. Anthony, officially from the local soccer show, congratulations.
Thank you.
From the Milan Weekly Podcast show, congratulations. And for everybody who's going to tune in, it's a fantastic story. It's hard work. It's dedication. I wish that this can get to millions of people, because stories like you, they need to be told and need to be celebrated.
Thank you.
I wish you the best of luck. I'm going to come probably with your dad to watch one of your games because he's going to invite me.
Hey, you have to.
And I wish you all the luck in the world, my friend. Congratulations. And thank you very much. Jack, have a nice night. Presidente, take us away.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.